Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Dan Illman, Mike Beer for Kentucky Derby Prep Recap, and we're going to go halfway across the world for the UAE Derby, a Grade 2 going 1 mile and 3/16. And the big favorite and all eyes were on the undefeated Forever Young. We break from the gate, the Japanese sensation, breaking from the far outside post. And Mike, I think he broke a little bit better than he'd done in the past. This is what I've seen from him in Japan and what I saw from him in the Saudi Cup. He's off a step or two slow, but then he can recover pretty quickly. Is it because just the paces are so slow?
Yeah, maybe. And listen, he's not sharp from the gate. You're right about that in this race, but he has no trouble getting forward. I felt like that was the plan too, Dan. They wanted to make sure he got within range, but I like this about him right here, because once he did get it the position that he wanted, he's just going to sort of back off here a little bit. He stays wide. He has a chance to drop over. They don't want to do that. They're going to stay wide with him, but I think that's the spot they wanted with him, Dan. He's in tracking position. He's pretty good from here, let's be honest.
While the outside post position can be a hindrance going 1 mile and 3/16 in Dubai, I think it worked for Forever Young in two ways. One, he was such a favorite, you didn't want to get locked in behind horses. If he was as good as advertised, he was supposed to overcome a wide trip. And B, he wore a hood for the first time in his career, and his trainer said maybe it was because he resented the kickback a little bit, but at this point, he's just traveling sweetly.
Yeah, once he got that position on the outside, and they never even try to save any ground in here yet. He's basically 4 wide around the track, but he's cruising around the second turn here. And by the time they get to the top of the stretch, he's going to be breathing right down the leader's neck in this race. He just flat overpowers that horse through the stretch. There's nobody to worry about behind. He's going to overpower this leader, though, Dan, and go on with it with a really good finish.
The question is, who did he beat? Pandagate, a New York bred coming off a win against state bred competition, ended up third for Christophe Clement. The horse on the lead that Forever Young is collaring right now is a Southern Hemisphere 4-year-old that really hadn't done a lot and, to be honest, was giving Forever Young 10 pounds in the stretch. I know a lot of folks on social media wanted to see Forever Young sort of spread eagle this field and win by 10, but considering the trip 4 wide around the track and the fact that he just seems so much more comfortable than he did in Saudi in his prior victory, I think it's a really promising performance.
Yeah, I'll agree with all that stuff. I thought he ran really well here. I also would just point out, who knows? I don't know how good Autobahn is, Dan, the horse who ran second to him. But it's not like that horse just sort of gave it up to Forever Young in the stretch. Autobahn ran in this race, and Forever Young just overpowered him at the end. I liked that about this performance. I liked the way he sort of cruised on the outside. And I also just liked, I personally wasn't impressed with his Saudi Derby when they sort of cut him back to the 1-turn mile and he gutted out a win. The added distance of this race seemed like it really worked to his advantage.
And that's kind of the remarkable thing about this horse. Now, they prepare horses in Japan a little bit differently. This horse has raced 5 times. He now has 2 wins at 1 mile and 1/8 and a win at 1 mile and 3/16. The Saudi Cup race, we talked about it before this horse ran last week. And to me, I just think that the Saudi Cup track is completely different than Dubai. It's deeper. We've seen good horses look bad on that track. And I think for Forever Young to actually have gotten up despite racing on his wrong lead, it was a pretty good sign, despite, again, it disappointed a lot of the social media fans.
Yeah, he beat another good horse that day, too. Probably doing what he doesn't really want to do there. So,
Right.
Listen, I think he just wanted, if nothing else, if you like this horse, you wanted to see him run better in the UAE Derby, and he ran a lot better, I thought anyway, in the UAE Derby.
Now, Autobahn is not going to be eligible for the Kentucky Derby, being a Southern Hemisphere 4-year-old. So we'll just take a closer look at the undefeated Forever Young. It's kind of an interesting pedigree, Mike. His sire, Real Steel, was best known as winning the Dubai Turf at 1 mile and 1/8. He was an okay sort of handicapped turf horse overseas in Japan. Not really the top of the top, but there's an Americanized pedigree on the bottom. The dam won the Grade 2 Santa Ynez in Southern California. She's a half to Heavenly Love, who won the Alcibiades. The second dam was a multiple stakes winner at Keeneland. It's the family of a Japan Cup winner, Zeno Robroy. And the third dam won the Grade 1 Ballerina. So there's a lot of class and a lot of different distances and surfaces here for these connections to play with. And maybe the biggest advantage this horse has is his trainer, who has come over here with Japanese horses and has won big races, I believe 2 during the Del Mar Breeders' Cup a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty to like from a lot of different directions, it seems like, from this horse. You pointed out all the pedigree stuff. And listen, I've been hearing about this horse for 6 months now because you told me very early on that you thought he was really good. It's turning out that you were 100% correct there. What I like about him, Dan, is I like obviously the fact that he can get a distance of ground. That's going to be really important for him. We'll see, how much a big field and a better field in Kentucky affects this horse, because it seems like they've been pretty conscious to keep him out in the clear. And I don't know if maybe he doesn't want to get behind horses in a race like the Derby with a bunch of horses in front of him that he has to sort of work his way through.
One more positive. They could have easily qualified for this race, for the Kentucky Derby, in the Road to the Japan series. He was the best 3-year-old dirt horse going in. He probably would have swept that series and earned an automatic berth. This trainer showed a lot of confidence. Remember, the Saudi Cup offered no qualifying points. It was win, second, or out for Forever Young. He was able to get it done. I think one of the big question marks as well, not only the company he's going to be keeping, not only the potential for kickback and traffic, is the likelihood of a very fast pace in the Derby, a pace much faster than he's used to. And if he has a lot to do in the stretch, he's going to be getting some kickback and he's going to have to overcome trouble.
Yeah, I would worry about that too, especially because we've seen him now, at least I've seen him a couple of times where he's not great from the gate. You break a step slowly in the Derby and you're automatically behind the 8 ball. I don't know if he can afford to do that kind of stuff. So listen, there could be a lot working against him in Kentucky. I think the talent is clearly there. It's just a question of, how well he's going to match up against. Listen, it's going to be way tougher horses, Dan. Again, we talked about this race. The only horse that you can take a line on him through, at least in my opinion, is Pandagate, who was third. I like Pandagate, but beating Pandagate by a handful of lengths doesn't do a lot for me on the way to the Kentucky Derby.
Although Pandagate, I guess, is the workmate of Deterministic, who won the Gotham and is going to be a major factor probably in the Wood Memorial or the Bluegrass or wherever they decide to run him. Forever Young, I think it all comes down to price, doesn't, with all these horses. But with Forever Young being undefeated, being the mystery horse, I have a feeling there's a chance he's actually an underlay on Derby Day.
I kind of feel the same way. I feel that there's some buzz around this horse, even though he's a Japanese horse who we haven't seen in America yet. There's buzz around this horse. People like him. I sort of look at him the same way you do. I feel like he's going to take his share of money in Kentucky, and then it's just going to be your call. How low do you want to go on this horse?
We'll take a look at the international prices for the UAE Derby. Forever Young was no surprise. Each way bets on Autobahn and Pandagate returned 11.10 and 360. Together. Autobahn makes the exacta behind Forever Young. So Forever Young, unbeaten. He's won in Japan. He's won in Saudi Arabia. He's won in the United Arab Emirates. We'll see if he can win in Kentucky on the first Saturday in May.